Okay, well, welcome. First thing I should point out is the cookies are on the back table here, so help yourself to cookies. There should be napkins there. I already started the oatmeal raisin, but anybody else can open any of the other ones. Well, thanks for coming. For the classroom presenter sort of workshop, I threw in some active collaborative learning. We're going to have more workshops on both of these topics. So we can do the classroom presenter again, or I can come and give you some personalized attention if you have a specific task that you want to do with Classroom Presenter. And the active collaborative, you're just going to get a little bit of a taste of it. We're trying to marry up here's some technology, but here's some pedagogy. Here's why you might use it in the classroom. And two of the main areas we're doing for teaching techniques or teaching methods is active collaborative learning, ACL, and problem-based learning, PBL. So these are two main areas that we're going to try and push across the campus, and I'm involved with a lot of that as the CTL director. So I'm throwing in a smattering of some of the ACL and some of the, not PBL in this one, but ACL into this one. Specifically two types of things. One is think, pair, share type questions, and the other would be a muddiest point sort of question. They lend itself to Classroom Presenter, or Classroom Presenter lends itself to doing those two types of things. So I've also tried to structure it so that we sort of get into, here's the very beginnings of Classroom Presenter. Here's how you could use it. If you just want to use it just by yourself and not do anything fancy with it, I'll give you some reasons why you might like it better than PowerPoint when you're doing regular slide presentations to the class. Then we can get into a few more, slightly more advanced things of what if you wanted the class to send stuff to you, or what if you wanted to hide things so that you can see it on your screen and they can't see it on theirs. So you can see it on this screen, they can't see it on that screen up there. So then we'll move upwards into Classroom Presenter as it gets more and more advanced. At any point, if you want to tap out and say, okay, I'm done, that's fine. I'm going to go straight through. Obviously, any questions you've got, let's raise the questions now. But at any point, if you say, okay, I'm not going to be doing that, I want to give everybody sort of a flavor. I want to get everybody sort of ramped up into it basically, and then see how far advanced we want to go with it. Okay, let's go back. So it would be the Center for Teaching and Learning, Organization, and Blackboard, and then under the workshops area, and ours is the first one here. So if I click in, let's see, I got to move it back out to click in. Go away. Now I got my there. Get out of the way. The keyboard likes to be helpful and pop into view. And the internet connection seems to be really wonky in this room. I don't know if it's the room or the time of day, but I have trouble with my astronomy class sometimes getting into there. But in that workshop area, there's a whole bunch. There's this presentation. Now I'm getting a server not found. But there's this presentation and a bunch of other little supplemental files that are in there. I'll refer to them in the talk. Okay, so here we are with the Classroom Presenter, and this is a joke here. James has already pointed out, wait, 247 slides? I don't have time for that, so it's just a little joke. Dr. Julie Zwisler-Wallach really helped out. I was the one that started playing around with Classroom Presenter when the tablets first came to campus, and I showed her at one point in one of these little mini workshops, and then she took off and ran with it, and then came back and said, oh, hey, when you do this, when you do that, oh, I'm not actually doing that in my class right now. So she's inspired me to keep, step up my game. So I've got her nipping at my heels trying to do more and more with Classroom Presenter, so I've got to step up my game. Okay, so let's talk about Classroom Presenter and PowerPoint. Some of the reasons why this is better. I'm going to get into the reasons why PowerPoint might be better, but this is very simple inking. So this is much simpler than PowerPoint. PowerPoint, you have to right-click or really left-click with a pen and set ink and set colors and all that, and this exposes all of those inking tools much more visible than PowerPoint. If for nothing else, that's got me sold on Classroom Presenter. You can see instructor notes. You can hide things. This is a little bit more advanced. We will cover it today, but you can hide things so that I can look brilliant in front of the class. I can say, oh, the mass of the Earth is 6.98 times 10. Well, I'm looking at the screen where it says it right here, though they don't see it on that upper screen up there. I can have prompting questions. Don't forget to ask them about such and such. I can do all kinds of hidden stuff. They don't see it here, but I've got it here in my notes. I've got a navigator. I've got a film strip thing on the side, so I can see, oh, I know, the next one I'm talking about is drawbacks for Classroom Presenter. Okay, so when I get done with this slide, I say, oh, no, okay, wait, some of the drawbacks for class, let's take a look at those. Click to the next slide. Wow, look at that transition. He did it so seamlessly. Previews. I can see those previews on the sides. I can see what slides are coming up. I can even scroll down, and you're not seeing me scroll, but I'm scrolling up and down going, okay, when do I get, oh yeah, a couple of slides will get to that thing, so I can already tell them where I'm going to be. I can export it out to HTML if you want to share slides. So we're going to get into a couple of things here about sharing slides or not sharing slides, and there's some pedagogy there. There's two sort of main camps there. Neither of them are wrong. Neither of them are necessarily right. It's going to depend on you and your class and what you desire. We can throw in some easily extra writing space right on the screen, right live when you do it, as opposed to, okay, wait, let me get out of this, let me add another slide to my deck, let me go back in again. I can do it right there live or on the same slide and just squeeze the slide in and get some writing space around it, or I can just add another slide, a blank slide right into that same presentation without having to exit and come back in. So that's a really nice thing. This is really very handy. I am now looking at my desktop. I've got my taskbar and everything because here's a little clue. I'm already in Classroom Presenter now. This looks like I'm in PowerPoint. In PowerPoint, your whole screen looks like this, and I can't see my clock. It's 2:10, by the way. So I can see that. I can even shrink this. I can go around. I can open up other things if I had to look up something. That's really handy to do that you can't do with PowerPoint as easily. Multi-deck. I can have multiple decks running and I just switch over to the other deck. So at the moment I've only got the one running, but I can switch over to another deck, boom, there. I don't have to exit, load up the other deck or have it up there and then restart the presentation. I just switch over to the other deck and all of a sudden you're seeing a different slide. We can face the students. We're not looking at, I mean, this is obviously a case, PowerPoint, I can also face the students. I don't have to be facing the board or writing on the board, but I can very easily use it for something like advising. Julie uses it in advising. She'll set up across the desk from her students and say, okay, open up Classroom Presenter and I'll show you where she's going to be an instructor, you're going to be students. So you come in now, I can draw, you can draw on something, you can send it to me. She can do this back and forth. She, in the old days, well, old days meaning last year, she could do it over the web. The tricky thing is that now they've changed our web model here on the campus, so we're not sure if this will run across the web. It'll run on our campus, but whether she can do it externally, because she used to be able to give the student the IP address and they could actually tunnel right in and get to her and go across, from outside campus. That we're not sure. We know it'll work in the building. It should work on the campus, and then beyond that we're not so sure. But and then it's the primary reason for doing Classroom Presenter is inking. That's its primary function. Now, that's going to be one of the drawbacks to Classroom Presenter is it doesn't do animations, it doesn't do media, it doesn't do audio or movies or things like that because it's set up to do inking on the screen. It was written by people that had a tablet computer and wanted to do much better than what PowerPoint was able to do, so it's a default inking program. Okay. So I alluded to the fact that I already knew that the drawback slide was coming up because I've got that in my slide film strip next to me. We don't have animations. We can't do any kind of animated sort of fly-ins, or I get tired of those sometimes, but occasionally it's nice to be able to say something and then have a circle come around it or whatever. Well, now I can do a circle around it. I can say animations, yeah, we don't have those in Classroom Presenter. But the inking tools are right there. Now that's orange. I could switch to blue. I could switch to red, switch to yellow, switch to black. I'm just switching at the click of I'm not left click, select, come over, fly out. Oh, I missed the fly out. Okay, wait, fly out. I don't do that. Boom, the colors are all right there. For formal presentations, maybe you do want some of those animations or some of those transitions. It depends. I've never looked back. Once I went to it with my teaching, I never went back to PowerPoint after that. Reasonably stable, but it's not bulletproof. We've got a problem in that we've got a ticking clock on this. This was 2008 was the last update. So we're already in 2012. We've already gone through two major software, Windows 7, Windows, let's see, what do we have? Windows, what was before Windows 7? XP? No, it was after that. Oh, Professional. We had Vista, which let's forget about Vista, but we had XP Professional or whatever. We had NT Professional, all these various things. So, but 2008, that's a little far back. And so there's technology that's out there that's being used in Classroom Presenter to do some of this sharing back and forth, and Microsoft doesn't do a good job of holding on to legacy stuff. So at some point that stuff may just turn off because Microsoft doesn't bring it forward into their operating system. So I've got some questions out to the people that develop this to say, hey, are you still going to develop, or B, would you release the code in case we've got grad students in math computer science that want to work on a project. this would be cool. There's a couple of things that Julie and I have, oh man, I wish I could do this. It'd be great to have them program it, and what a project that would be. So we do have that sort of ticking clock. It's reasonably stable. You have to pay attention to my suggestions for saving files, how you save them, and the file names themselves, or at least you can't save absolutely, you can only save relatively, which is really the opposite of the way it should be. You should always be able to save an absolute address, like all the way down C/my_document/, but in this case, saving relatively will save your ink, and saving absolutely does not. So I've got a warning in there. And if it allows the internet, you may have some connection problems. We had a problem, we've worked with our computer center to open up at least the building right now. So anyone in the building, as long as you're on the new wireless network, I think the old one is going away tomorrow or today or something. So everybody's got to be on the same wireless network when you do this. If you are, as a faculty member, going to share your slides to the students. If it's you alone, who cares? But if you want to make a connection to the students, everybody's going to be on the same wireless. And that means somebody can't be on guest and they can't be outside the school, dialing in. Now that's a good, and I'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to it. But that's also a good thing, because in theory, somebody could get into our class in Classroom Presenter from some other building on campus, and that most likely will not be able to, well, it may work on campus, it certainly won't work off campus. So at least they're here as opposed to somewhere else. But the Blackboard tools don't necessarily guarantee that they're in the classroom anyways too. So, okay, so those are some of the drawbacks. We do have, let's see, I thought I had a slide. Oh, that's interesting. At some point I had a slide about, so this sort of talked about why PowerPoint might be better, the animations and things like that. So I'll try to give them a little bit of the other, a balanced view of that. Okay, so the overview, this is just sort of discussing Classroom Presenter in general, where it fits in. Let's do some simple Classroom Presenter. What's the simplest way to get into it and play around with it and use it for your purposes in terms of showing slides to the class? Then we could get into a little bit more advanced and work on in PowerPoint, because the nice thing about Classroom Presenter, it reads PowerPoint files. So if you have a bunch of PowerPoint files, you don't have to throw them away. None of the animations would work. So if you had fancy animations, you'll have to work out a different way of doing that. But once we get into PowerPoint, we can then tweak some things. We can hide some things. We can do some slightly fancier things. So again, it's still just you and the screen, but now you can hide some stuff. Then we could get into different modes. We could have a network mode, and we could say, I want to set up a classroom right here, and then my slides are automatically going out to everybody. Or I want you to be able to, I've got a particular question slide set that I want to give out, and I want to push that question out to everybody, and I want that group to work on it, and Tim is a man unto himself. He's going to work on it, and this group's going to work on it, and then I want you to send me your answers. Now I can collect them, show them to the screen. So that's more the upper end, the networked instructor and getting stuff from the students. So it's sort of beginning, intermediate, and advanced Classroom Presenter. We'll talk about all of these. Once we get up into this level here, we might want to sit down individually and work this out if you want to try it in your classroom. And I'd be happy to come, assuming I'm free at that time, to come if you want to do something advanced in the classroom. But I thought I'd work on, let's do some of the simpler stuff first and move up to intermediate. These two, I think, are really easy. I mean, they're easy enough to do. Anybody could do them. And it really depends. Do you want to do this in your class? Do you want to collect slides from the students? You may not have that as a big desire in your class, but the opportunity exists there, or the possibility exists. And then we can try running mini classes with each other if you want, just to see how that works. Submit slides and then a quick poll. We can do some polling. Blackboard does polling too. Blackboard has a little bit trickier to make a poll. You've sort of got to reload the questions each time, and you can't save questions, you can't store questions. This has a nice graphical interface to it where I can have the students answer a poll question, their clients into my networked instructor machine. I can then look at the numbers that are coming out, the bar graph, and either show it or not, depending on what I want to do. That's that slide preview thing where I can show the preview on the side to me and not show it to them, because you don't necessarily, certainly while they're voting, you don't want to show them the answers. But even after the fact, you may still not want to show them the answers. That's okay. I can still see what the answers are in my preview window. So, and I've already got some polls set up in terms of a template for you to just pour in your own information into the polls. So, okay. So Classroom Presenter in PowerPoint, and right now I'm running Classroom Presenter, and it's somewhat hidden to you. And then we'll look at the pedagogy of what are some of the better ways of using Classroom Presenter. So PowerPoint, the nice thing about Classroom Presenter is it reads PowerPoint files. So any work you've done up to this point, you're not reinventing the wheel. In PowerPoint, let's see, where am I? So this is PowerPoint, and that's Classroom Presenter. Right, okay. So in PowerPoint here, I can tag things. We have a particular driver, a special driver that's loaded, call it a driver? An add-on that's loaded into PowerPoint that lets you tag something. And Classroom Presenter treats that as hidden to the screen, but not to your instructor. So hidden to the overhead, but not to your instructor screen. So all we have to do is go through, and you might have stuff on the slides right now that you think, well, I got to put it up there because I never remember it, but man, I wish I could hide that. Well, you just tag that and hide it right now. Or you put in some other information. So I can put my own notes in here, and I go back through and look at my Classroom Presenter slides and the notes that I make, and then I realize, oh, I made a mistake with that. I crossed something out. Well, now I can go back and change it. So I'm always going to start in PowerPoint to edit things and or hide things, and then Classroom Presenter reads it. So it reads it, the flexible inking is there, we've got the hidden, if we want to do the hidden, and I've sort of done the easy, medium, and hard. So here's the easy, the medium, well, I should say advanced, not hard. Send slides out to students so I can let them see all my inked slides or not. That's a pedagogical argument. Do I want to give them the inked my notes, or nice, hit the mic there. Do I want to give them my notes, or do I want them to take their own notes? There are arguments on both sides, and we'll talk about both sides of those arguments. But having students send slides back to me, if you're doing any kind of teamwork or group work in your classes, that might be a really slick way to do it, is pose a question, have the groups work on it, send it back to you. That might be really nice. Okay. So right now I'm using Classroom Presenter. You can't tell the difference, and there's something written on the top of the screen that you can't see. So if I get out of this, and we'll have to talk a little bit about how we do, let's see, I want tablet cloned, how we do our projector modes. Because right now I need to switch modes so that you can now see what I'm seeing, and then, see, I had that written and you didn't see it, because I tagged that in PowerPoint, so it was hidden to your overhead screen, but it showed on my instructor screen. And now you're seeing the film strip on the side, and you're seeing the inking tools and so forth up there. So here's what's inside from the CP side. I don't normally run my class this way. If I'm recording things for, let's say, a video that I want to put outside the classroom, I actually will record it right in this. In theory, I could drag this window right here and only video the window itself, but I tend to just go ahead and record what I'm seeing, the whole window of Classroom Presenter. But normally I don't teach my class this way, especially if I want to hide some stuff. If I want to have hidden stuff, I can't teach it this way. I've got to use what they call extended desktop. So Classroom Presenter and PowerPoint has a presenter mode in PowerPoint that allows you to make use of that extended desktop, which means I'm going to send a slightly different image to the outside screen than what you see. PowerPoint has a window where here's the slide and here's notes. Remember how you could write notes underneath the slide in PowerPoint? And in the old days, you just had to print out the notes sheet. That's the only way you could get to see those notes when you're given a presentation. Well, in theory, you can have the notes showing up here, but it's only text notes. This could be anything you want to put in there, a graphic, an equation, a drawing, an ink drawing, something, anything you want could be in here and hidden. And Classroom Presenter would only be text notes, but there is a mode in PowerPoint. There is a mode in PowerPoint that would let you do that. But Classroom Presenter is dead. I hope by the end of this you'd say, at least for simple stuff, if not advanced stuff, Classroom Presenter is much better than PowerPoint. Okay, and then sometimes when I'm playing around with this to make sure that this is really hidden to them, not to me, I'll have a student window open. So I'll open myself as an instructor on my machine, open another version of Classroom Presenter, and run it as a student on my machine. Then I can see what the student sees or what the overhead would see. If I'm sitting in here, I've got my projector. But if I'm home, I may not have a projector that I can connect. I can still check to make sure, did everything that I want to hide really get hidden in this? Am I seeing what the overhead's going to see the right thing? So that's a quick way to test. Okay, let's go back I'm going to go back into Classroom Presenter now. So I want extended mode. And I'm quickly switching the projector modes here, and I talk about that in the, I've got how to switch projector modes for the tablets. Everybody that's got a tablet has a Fujitsu tablet. And I've got a registry file that's out there, and I've got instructions on how to use it. I can let you call up. You know what? Let's come back to that for a second. I'm going to go tablet cloned. So this is tablet mode where I'm writing like this. Laptop mode is where the screen is up, right? So if I want to switch back and forth between these, what I've got down here is we've got this Fujitsu Display Manager. This is by far the easiest way to switch back and forth. But I've noticed that there are a couple of things missing in here. This one is good. This is LCD and CRT, clone the display. That is, if Valentina were connected and she wanted to just duplicate what she sees there with up there, that's laptop, and she wants to clone it. Okay, so that's already here. I skipped the other ones. Well, this one is just me. That's just me alone. That's it. Or I'm sorry, this one's CRT alone. Wait. No, LCD is that. That alone, and that would be laptop. But I like this one right here, and then I've added 3. I want it to have, what if I'm in tablet mode like this, and I want it to be extended? That's what I was running before. What if I want to be in tablet mode and I want to be cloned? That's what I'm running right now. And then what if I want it to be laptop mode, but extended? So I've added these 3. And I could go through the steps on add this, setting, add, or I figured out how the registry stores this stuff, and I just give you the registry file, you right-click and say merge, and boom, all that stuff shows up for you, so you've automatically got it. At some point, I would go through and delete these other ones just to get them out of the way, and I really should rename this and make, so here's my 4 that come in. So this is really nice, so I can flip back and forth easily with those modes, because every time, if I open this up to laptop mode, it breaks the connection. It's a pain in the neck. But with this, I'm 2 clicks away from getting it back again. I don't have to do the flying out menus that we used to do and everything. So Fujitsu Display Manager, really nice. If you're only in laptop mode and only cloning, then Windows P is the way to go. Because Windows P just cycles you through. Do you want to clone it? Do you want to extend it? Or do you want to be all alone, just your screen and not the projector? That's the quickest way to cycle through. I don't have my keyboard here, but Windows P is the quickest way to cycle through if you're just doing laptop and projector. But if you're not, if you want to do something, I mean, I would still argue this mode is better than Windows P, because Windows P is going to do a little bit of a stretching on the fonts and everything, and this one brings me back to I want my screen exactly the way I normally see it, and then however I want to arrange it, and then I want that up there, the best view up there. So this is a better way through it, but Windows P is very quick if you're just doing laptop and clone. Okay, so I'm going to go back to tablet extended, because that means I get to see all my fancy stuff and you don't get to see it, you just see the presentation. Nothing against, you know, all the stuff that we're doing, but there's one other thing I always have to remember to hit it says, okay, are you happy with this? Do you want to do this? Yes, okay, I want to do that. And then I forget and it flips back again. It's like, oh, I meant to. Okay, so that's good. So the pedagogy, switching between ink colors, making notations, you can do that fast. I mean, you don't have to wait and delay and, oh, I got to do this and I got to do that. It goes in very quickly. You can switch between decks. Oh, let me show you that there was that demo deck. Boom, there's the demo deck. It's not a lot of wasted time as I switch to various things. I preload anything I want. Can't do that with Classroom Present or with PowerPoint. You can exit your presentation, then go to the next file, then, you know, you don't have to, you can load a bunch in a PowerPoint, but you can't as easily transition between them. Okay. Hidden display, hidden information, whatever kind of hidden information you want, whatever you can put in a PowerPoint and tag, you can hide. Okay. And we'll talk about that. What are some ways? Every time I want to hide something, I make it green, because green's not a color I normally use. So anything that's green, I know, oh, that's hidden. They're not going to see it up there. So, okay. Now, here's the pedagogical quandary. Do we give out the notes or not to the students? In my classes, almost all my classes, I do not give out the notes. My inked notes, I don't give them out. Does anybody give out their fully inked final notes? Okay, Marilyn does. That's a choice that Marilyn's made. The argument in favor of giving out notes is that's expert reasoning. She is reasoning through exactly how to solve a problem, exactly how to talk about a topic, and so the students get to see that expert reasoning. There's value in that. There's definitely value in that. The other side of it is, if I give out all my notes, I'm worried they may not pay attention in class. I want them to write down their own notes. There's the pedagogy of that. They have to stay more informed. Now, I sort of put one foot in each camp. What I'll do is I'll give out bare bones notes. I'll give out the equation up here, or a diagram, a circuit diagram or something, and a whole lot of white space. And then they have to write their notes down here, but they don't have to, on the fly, be able to write a circuit diagram or to write some big force, 17 forces are pulling on this sled, and they don't have to write all that. That picture is right there. I give out those PowerPoint presentations, the bare bones ones. They can ink, they can print them out on paper, they can write them, they can do whatever they want. And then I make my own inking up here and I keep that. I don't give that out. So when I run my Classroom Presenter, I'm mostly running it instructor standalone. It's me and the screen and that's it. I save those ink notes, but I don't give them out. I have given out the bare bones. So now I have a bare bones version and I have my version with all the hidden stuff. Those are both done in PowerPoint. Then I load in my hidden version into Classroom Presenter, ink it up, save it out. When Classroom Presenter saves it its own file format. So it doesn't go backwards back into into PowerPoint, but you've already got your original PowerPoint files. Classroom Presenter reads it and then saves it out under a new file type and a new file name. So you're not destroying your old ones, they're always there. And that's good because occasionally you make a mistake. Oh, I got to go back and fix the PowerPoint. Okay, next time you call up that original PowerPoint. You've got your corrections already in there now. Okay, so I like doing that, but it's totally your choice what you do. Most people probably tend to not give out their own written notes, but there are certainly upper level classes I could see making the case for, no, that's really expert reasoning. Maybe they should have my ink notes. Even in the upper level classes, I tend to not give out the notes. I do the bare bones, and maybe it's a little bit more of a fill-in than in the lower levels. Lower levels, I want them to be able to write a fair amount of their own notes. So, but the beauty of this is being able to hide stuff here, and then I've got the solution in the corner. I don't have to worry about making math errors up here because the solution is right there, step for step, or the important numbers that I need right there. So I can say, okay, now I'm thinking there's a mistake right here because I already see that it's wrong. That's 17 and this is 14 up here. I'm going, does anybody see a problem? Ah, right, the plus over here. So you can spot through easily because I've already got the hidden answers in there. So, I mean, you'd think, yes.
I usually do the same thing. I give a short PowerPoint just to have a structure
Right.
for the lecture. But then at the end of the chapter, I put out the notes.
Your notes?
Not my
Oh.
notes, because they come to the board and they are supposed to solve some of the problems.
Okay.
So they do it directly on the PowerPoint.
Okay.
So then they get their notes too, as it were.
Oh, meaning the notes that they hand wrote, that they wrote on the ink on the PowerPoint, they get those back.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Just a comment.
right. When we get to the sending slides back through Classroom Presenter, you can collect those slides and send those slides out to them. So you could do this without them having to come up to the front of the room. They can do it from the comfort of their own chair and then still assemble that set of slides. Okay, so remember that when we get to that part. Okay, if you want to collaborate, you can collaborate with the students. Have them work with each other, solve something, and send it to you, and you get to preview. And you get to look at them and say, oh, Tim, I don't know what Tim has been smoking, but this is not, sorry, Tim, this is not going to work. But this crew over here, they've got a great one. Let's look at their, so you can spot check and pick the one that you think is going to be a good one. Or you might say, oh, okay, Tim made the classic mistake. I keep picking on Tim. Why am I picking on Tim? Tim made the classic mistake. Let's put that one up there because I want people to see that. So this is kind of nice. And then for advising, Julie uses it for advising. She does a great job. In fact, she's going to eventually present, I think there's an advising sort of workshop, conference. And I think she's going to have to go and present this at these conferences. Okay, so simple Classroom Presenter is you clone the projector mode. So this is what you see on my screen is what they're going to see on their screen. If you don't want to hide anything, they just want to be able to see the overall slides, you just clone the projector. This is not a problem. We've got your toolbars there, or you can go into extended mode. You can at least have it so that they get a full screen up here. They don't see all your toolbars and all your preview slides, that they're seeing what you're seeing right now, even without doing any hiding. Okay, so on your machines, let's go find Classroom Presenter because obviously it's in UW CSE. That's the folder that you would look in on your start menu. Then once you get down to Classroom Presenter. Now here's my suggestion, pin it to various places. So if you right-click on, with a mouse, right-click on that where it says Classroom Presenter, you get options to pin to taskbar, pin to start menu. Start menu is the thing that's up here. When you hit the start button, there's all the programs that show up here. And the taskbar, this thing down at the bottom, down here. So once you go in on the start menu, go to your all programs, come down to, here's the UW CSE, come down to Classroom Presenter 3, come down to the Classroom Presenter. If you right-click on that, I would pin it to start menu, pin it to the taskbar. For now, I pin it to both, because then it's always there, it's always visible for you. You can do this trick with anything you want. Any program you can get to from your start menu, you can pin it down onto your taskbar or pin it on your start menu. I've got a ton of things pinned in both places because I want easy access to them. If you've been playing around with snipping tool, which is something we'll do when we do an inking tools workshop, snipping tool really has to be down here because you want to be able to get to it when your screen is cluttered with a bunch of stuff. So you don't want to find it as an icon down very deep in there. Okay, how do you unpin? If you go back to that thing and right click on it, now you're going to see a choice. If you pinned it somewhere, you'll see a choice for unpinning. So you could always take it off from wherever you didn't want it. But again, this works for any software that you want. Any software you can get to from the start menu, you can pin it to those two places. Okay, when you go to open that, when you click on it to open it, it's going to ask you what kind of mode do you want to start in. Right now, I would start in standalone instructor. So this is just me and this screen, and I'm not doing anything. I'm not connecting. I'm not making my own little mini network. It's standalone instructor. Enable the dual monitor if you want to do the extended mode. That's already by default. It clicks on. But if you want to be able to do this extended mode and hide something and have it there, you've got to be able to have that. Okay. And then the toolbar. So the toolbar is you've got all of your ink colors here. You've even got a custom color. You can set this to whatever color you want. So I tend to find orange is one that I tend to reach toward. Yellow is actually not a great... Yellow on some screens is really garish, and it's really hard to read. Oops, that's black. So yellow is this. That's not bad in here. Other screens, it's really garish. So I went with orange, orange being a softer version, and the orange usually works out really nicely. Sometimes they throw a purple in there if I need something that's sort of red and a blue in there. So we got the ink colors. Okay, we've got a pen. We've got a highlighter. If I want to do a highlighter, you know what I should do is let's come out and go right into, how about tablet cloned? Because then you're seeing what I'm seeing. And if I go to highlighter, then I've got a slightly different set of highlighter colors to it, right? The sort of softer colors. But then I can highlight, I can do any kinds of, and this is, when I get to my eraser, I've got a stroke eraser. So this pen eraser here, the end of the pen, the end of this pen is an eraser, and it's erasing, if you remember I did the green, then the other green, then the blue on top. It's erasing the stroke, no matter how deep it is. I can go in and erase that yellow that's way underneath all that stuff, but it's just erasing the stroke. So that is a stroke, that's a different stroke. I can erase the first one. If I hit this button, this is erase everything on the screen. So if I've got a bunch of stuff on there, and I hit that, whoops, hit that, the whole screen goes. You go, oh, I didn't mind to do that. So if you look carefully, we've got an undo button. Oh, thank goodness. Okay. So we can undo or redo the most recent change. And I'm not sure, does that go back farther? No, so it's only the most recent change. Oh, no, yeah. It does go farther and farther back. Up to a point. So, but it keeps track of some of those, so that's really nice to have. I rarely use the erase the whole screen, but I'll just flip the pen over because I'm so used to almost all my other inking programs you get to flip the pen. Okay, so that's the erase screen. You can add text if you want to add a text box onto your, but might as well just write unless you've got, I've got relatively bad handwriting. I've gotten better working with the inking here. But if you want to actually add a text box, you could add that in. Problem is on the tablet mode, I don't have my keyboard easily. I'd have to use that fly-out keyboard. That's kind of a pain. Here's the undo stuff. Okay, so here's where the slides, the students can send slides. Oh, you know what? This is an instructor view, so that's the student view. They get to mail a slide to you. If they have a slide that they want to be able to send to you, they'll see this little mail icon that lets you, as a client, you can mail it back to the instructor. I've got a white screen here, a whiteboard. So if I click the whiteboard, boom, there's my white new blank slide. So I can write whatever I want on this. I could also go back to my original slide here and up under tools, no, of course under insert, I can, no, of course under decks, I can insert slides from deck. I can insert a new slide. So there's the new slide that comes right after the slide that I just had in there. So I just inserted a slide without having to exit my presentation, get into PowerPoint, say new slide, delete all the crap that it puts on the new slide, and then start the presentation back again. All the time it asking me, bugging me about, do you want to save your ink? Do you want to not save it? I mean, it naturally just has all the ink in there. Okay, so, and then we can navigate back and forth. So I can navigate back and forth this way. The buttons on the tablet work, or the arrow keys and the page down, page up, they navigate fine. So if you're in the tablet mode, when it flips upside down, the farthest button over, that's a page down, and then page up is the go one slide up, one slide down. So I then tend to not use those buttons when I'm in here. I tend to use the actual physical buttons on the keyboard or on the monitor piece. But those are obviously the navigation buttons. You can lock this. So this one is a lock where if there were clients in here, they could only see as far as I've gone in my slide set. So that means even though they may be connected to my slide set, they can't go any further than I've gone. So that's a way to sort of lock them in. If you have some sort of surprise coming up on the next slide, they won't see it until you let them see it. Okay, so erase chalk eraser, I did that. Okay, so extra writing space. Let me go back into the other way of doing this. So tablet extended like that, and then say, okay. So if I need the extra white space, I've got the option to shrink. There was an icon in there. There's an icon that looks like a white with a thing shrunk up a little bit. If I shrink this up, so there. So I just shrunk this page up like this. Now I've got extra writing space that I can write here and there. So if I get to the end of my calculation, oh man, I need just a little bit more. Boom, let me just scoot a little bit more ink onto there. Now, if I click that button again, that goes away. But if I click it, it's still there. It's still hidden in there. So I can leave that slide like that, go to the next slide, come back to that slide, and it remembers that I had shrunk that in and I'd added more space to it. So that's a nice little feature. Now, you can only do that once. If you click it again, it's a toggle. It's on or off. It's not like I can keep shrinking recursively and get smaller and smaller. We also talked about the whiteboard. So the whiteboard it's over here, the whiteboard where I can just add a new blank slide. And it creates another deck with all the whiteboards, or I can just insert another slide under the deck stuff. Insert a slide, and it'll insert it after the slide that you're on. So a lot of opportunity to add stuff when I need to without having to exit the software to do it. Okay, so a little bit of ACL detour. The ACL is active collaborative learning. So if we want to try and add more activity in the classroom and have the students do more thinking, not listening, the idea is instead of the sage on the stage, me being the one that says everything that's of importance, I'm the guide on the side. I'm trying to get them to think about things and discuss things with each other. And so they can come up with a lot of really great ideas or bubble up misconceptions. I might say, does everybody get this? Yeah, I get it. They don't really get it, but they're just going to collectively nod their heads. So if you then ask them to solve a particular question on the board or answer a problem on the board, then they have to sort of confront, oh, wait a minute, I'm not sure, now I don't really know what's going on. Then if I do some random check and say, okay, Marilyn, what about this? Or Valentina, what about this? Randomly ask them some questions. So the think, pair, share is really nice. If we had a question on a slide, we pose the question to them, let them think about it, so pair up and think about it, discuss it, let them discuss it, and I'll tell you why we're going to do that, and then ask randomly and pick somebody at random. So there's a couple of different pieces here. One of them is we've got to give them time to think about it. We tend to, as faculty, ask a question and then right away, who's got the answer? Some people very quickly have the answer and others take a little bit longer. They'll get there, but it takes them a little bit longer. And we need to be able to pause and let them think about it. And that's deadly for faculty, to pause and wait for them. You always want to step in and give them the answer. Or you always want to find somebody. Valentina's always raising her hand. I want to go to her because I know she's got the answer. We get that sense of that's what we want to do, and we really shouldn't. We're doing them a little bit of a disservice by always going to the quickest person to get the answer because everybody else in the class knows, I'm just going to wait for Valentina to answer it. She's got it. Or Tim, he's always the one that's got it. See, I'm going to now rehabilitate, not pick on Tim. Okay. Let them think about it in pairs. Here's another option. Dave is relatively quiet. He might not want to answer if I just go, Dave, quick, what's the answer? But if Dave can talk to Valentina and then think about it and discuss it, and oh, that's a great idea, Valentina. Okay, now when I call on Dave, he's going to be much more comfortable about it. It's not right out of the gate. It's only him on the line. He's talked with somebody else about it. He's checked with somebody else to see if is my answer, does that make any sense? Or he's got a little bit more comfort about that. Because I don't like the sort of the icebreaker type things. I've never liked those as a kid, as a young adult, as an adult. I don't like those icebreaker sorts of things. I actually don't like working in groups. I like working just by myself. So being called upon, it's like, oh man, don't pick on me, pick on somebody else, you know. So I'm not a fan of being called upon randomly, but I recognize the pedagogy of it. I recognize why it's good for us to do that from this side of the fence. But if I can talk with somebody first, for example, we just had the retreat, the assessment day sort of thing. And there was this big book that we were supposed to read, the Thomas Friedman, This Used to Be Us was the book. And so I read the book, but I sped read in parts. And I was thinking, if they're going to like quiz us or randomly ask us questions, I'm screwed because I'm not going to remember all this. But when we got there, it's like, okay, talk with your neighbors and write out some answers. Oh, sweet. I get to talk with somebody and we'll work out some answers in common. Great, no problem. I'm much more comfortable with that. So there's some good pedagogy there for letting them, it's the peer instruction idea. Let them talk to each other and let them, they've got their own language in some ways that we don't necessarily have the same access to. Then ask randomly though. Randomly says, I'm not just going for whoever raised their hand. I'm not just going to Tim, he's always got the answers. I'm going to randomly pick. It's James. Okay, so I got a random list here. I'm now asking James. And James is like, oh, crap. I wasn't, okay, yeah, I'm going to answer the question now. But that keeps the class on their toes. They're not necessarily knowing who the next person to call on. It's not always the two that always raise their hands. So everybody's got it, and we'll talk about the randomness. It's random with replacement. So I can say James, and then I've got a sheet printed out of random numbers or random names, and then James is the next one. He goes, oh, you just asked me. I go, no, but your name randomly came up the second time. It was a roll of the dice, and roll of the dice can come up the same name the second time. And so when I'm picking out my lists, I try and make sure that I've got a couple of those pairs set up in the list, so that I can make the point to the students, hey, this is random with replacements. Not like James, and then I'll randomly get to everybody else and then get around again. It could be 5 Jameses in a row, and that's good luck for James. So, okay.
Can I make another
Please.
comment? I've been using this semester with the random pick-up names, and what I find is they volunteer more now. And why? I think because they don't know who's coming on the list. And
Right.
so they think, what if I'm coming next, but I don't know how to answer that one, but I know how to answer
this one.
So let me put in some good points now. So before I was like, does anyone want to volunteer? And
Right. Nobody would volunteer, right.
They have to go to the board, they have to talk to the class. Nobody was coming. Now they raise their hands and they want to volunteer.
But do they buy, I mean, so the question is, no, don't reveal the answer to the students in the back there. Can they buy themselves out if they answer right in volunteering? Do you then skip them if the names comes up?
Sometimes
Okay.
I forget.
Okay, so they're not necessarily gaming the system, but they're sort of more, well, wait, I want to contribute when I really know the answer sort of thing. Okay, well, you found it a more active class then, just by introducing the random names.
Well,
Or more energetic. They're more, I mean, it's an honors course, but it's
no, I think that's not the point, it's just that they are 15, so they know their names.
15 students in the class.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, you know they're going to cycle through. That is frustrating because I was helping Valentina set up the list. In fact, there's an Excel sheet out there in the Blackboard site that's a randomizer. So if you put in your names, it'll automatically generate so I've got an addition that Valentina, when I put the thing together for her, I said, wait, she might want one name at a time to randomly pop up on the screen. So it's almost like a ready, roll the dice, and Jimmy, it's you, you know. And so I built that into this little program, in this little Excel sheet. And then I decided the second sheet there was I like to print out a paper sheet because then I'd make a little note like, oh, okay, so Valentina answered that right, Marilyn answered that right, and Tim really answered it right. Okay, see, I'm building up Tim again. So, and then James, what's up with James? So James wasn't here, so I'm going to put an X, and then I know I can come back. So it's sort of a pseudo-random. I can go back through and say, okay, well, James missed that one and missed that one. I'm going to hit James again because I want him to stay on track of things. So I printed out a list. Well, now I've even created the second page is already randomly. You don't have to do any copying and pasting. So I've got this set up. If you just put your student names in, you've got 2 ways to do it. Live in class, you can roll the dice, bingo, there's so-and-so's up. Or you can print out a sheet that says here's 50 names or 100 names or something. There's no way you're going to get through all that in a semester, I don't think. So, but those are the active collaborative sort of the think, pair, share. We'll see some examples of that, of asking a question here and then pairing up. And so classroom presenter you can set up. Now when we want to go more advanced, we can go polls. We could actually have poll questions out there and then you could see the results in the poll. So that's a clicker sort of idea. You've heard of clickers with the actual devices that click in. Well, classroom presenter can basically be a clicker. Do the polls and run the histogram that way of what the answers are. Muddiest point's another one. So when we get to the point where we talk about, hey, let's have students submit slides to me, muddiest point, that could be a, hey, what's the muddiest point? What's the problem you're having with this course or this topic? When we're doing momentum and inelastic momentum, what's the problem with the calculations? And like, what's the sticky point for you? Come up with a question that you want to ask me. What's your muddiest point? So ask me a question, and then we'll see if we can solve it as a class. And then they submit the slides, and you go through and go, okay, nah, same. Oh, that's a great question. Okay, hey, boom. Let's show this question. What do we think about this? Who's got an answer for this? You know. So muddiest points, and this is a good sort of referendum on, are they getting it? Or they will more easily write something down. You can easily do this with scraps of paper. Have little index cards or a piece of paper or something. At the end of class, here's a hat. If you've got a muddiest point, throw it in the hat. You know. But this is a way for you to check, is there something that they're not willing to raise their hand and ask about, but it's a problem that they're having? Here's an anonymous way they can get that information to you. Even if they're sending you the slides, I don't know who's exactly sending the slides to me. I don't have a track of, oh, Tim is signed in and that's Tim's slide. They're going to have to identify on the slides if they want to or if I need them to. So it is still random even if they're sending slides to me. Unless I happen to look over and go, oh, Tim just sent a slide. Oh, there's a slide. That's Tim's slide, you know, or unless I recognize the handwriting. Okay, so here are the two things that when we get to those spots in the classroom presenter, we'll try and hit those. Well, I'll try and point out, here's a place where we can put this little simple active collaborative. Okay, so, oops, you know what, I did a whole lot of talking and this was I forgot I had my ACL slides that I dropped in here. So, are you covering all the material in the class book, in the textbook? You most likely are not. You most likely cannot cover all the material. And are they retaining the important concepts? If your answer is to no to either of these, then active collaborative might be a way to get them thinking about the most important concepts. Now, we will never be able to cover all the topics in the textbook. There's no way we can do that kind of coverage. The textbooks get bigger and bigger, and our semester term gets either smaller or stays the same size. So, but we have to sort of re-ask the question, what do we want them to learn coming out of this class? There are certain fundamental things they've got to learn to get to the next level or the next course or into their major, but we spend a lot of time making sure we cover everything in physics. If we could instead teach them how to think critically about physics and how to approach physics problems. This is the teach a man to fish or give the man some fish, right? If you teach him to fish, he's set. If you just give him fish, well, he's got fish and then he's hungry again. So it's, can we give them the tools that they need to learn physics, maybe not covering all the topics that we had before, but if we give them the ability to learn, then they just learn whatever they need in the future. So this is, if you buy that argument, then active collaborative is a great way to do it. Gets them more critically thinking in the classroom, gets them more active, engaged in the classroom, and then hopefully you can work on these fundamental concepts that we really must have them know and drop out some of the ones that we don't necessarily have them know. But if they fundamentally know how to do these other things, they can figure out the other pieces to it. Okay, more active. Okay, there's still a place for lecture, but we want to try and reduce the number of monologues. And of course, every time we do this in a workshop, it's a big monologue workshop, so that's always the frustrating side of things. But we want to try and remove that and then possibly move some of the lecture outside. So we can record some lecture pieces or some tutorial pieces and put them outside the class, let them have access to that so that we're not doing, so we have more time for active, discussion and collaboration in the class as opposed to sitting and watching me solve a problem. They can sit and watch me solve a problem on the video. That would be a better use of our class time to move that outside. Also gives them some framework on how they study and what they study at night, what kind of work they put in on the class. So randomly calling on students, keeping them on track, making sure that it's not the loudest or the one that most often raises their hands. Bunch of different ways. I mean, the low-tech way is popsicle sticks. You put names on them, and you either drop the popsicle stick back in after you call it or lay it out on the counter. So it's random with replacement or without replacement. If it's without replacement, they know, whew, Dave, I'm done. Okay, so I'm going to wait and sit back, and all the other popsicle sticks come out. I'm good until then. But if you put it back in, then they got to... So I like the Excel way to do it. So this is the fancier version of this, and it's not Control F9. It's actually just F9. But... if you look out on the Blackboard site, there's a really slick Excel sheet that I've worked out with Valentina's suggestions to put that together. You can even do multi-sided dice, depending on how many students you have in your class, or cards, deck of cards or something. Okay, you hand out cards, and then you've got the other half, like hand out the reds, and I've got the blacks here. And then as I pick the card, okay, ace of spades, who's got the ace of diamonds? That's going to be the next person sort of thing. So you could ask the question first, let everybody think about it, and then pick the student. That's actually the better way to do it. Rather than saying, okay, Jimmy, you're now the one. everybody else goes, "Phew, okay, it's Jimmy. I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to sit back." So if you say, wait, here's the question on the board. Okay, now, who am I picking? Let's see, James. See, James now had to be thinking about that because it could have been anybody. Now it's James's question. If I say, James, here's your question, everybody else sits back and goes, that's James's question. I don't have to worry about that. So there's an order on how you want to do that. And then what do you do with the I don't know answer? That's key. You can't say, I don't know, that failed, that's it. Okay, so forget it. He was doing well, and then forget it. You can't do that. You've got to soften that up slightly. You've got to be able to have the, okay, well, so what other piece do you need to know? Or Valentina, can you help out with this? Or so you start directing, and that's classroom management. I mean, we should get better at that. When you start making your class active, you're going to have to get better at that. Because if we start random, if I pick Valentina all the time and I know Valentina's got the answer, I'm set. I don't have to worry about it. If she stumbles, she'll stumble a little bit, and I'll be able to help her with it. But if I'm randomly picking, I may get somebody like, Dave. Hey, Dave to answer a question. Yikes. I don't know what's going to come out of his mouth. So I've got to be able to deal with, I don't know the answer to that. Okay. Questions or comments on random calling? Do you do randomly call, or do you sort of take whoever raises their hand and ask? That's a very common way to do it, is who's got the answer to this? Who knows? Okay, Billy, you raised your hand, or is that the way you traditionally? If you can get them to answer. That's the key, right? If they don't answer, you don't.
Well, I was accused. I had my youngest daughter sit in on a class. She did it just for fun to see what Dad got
Right.
to. And I would pick on a student without knowing too much about them. And say,
Right.
Okay, you with the red shirt.
Right.
And she felt that was humiliating and all the rest of it. So I got a lecture on
Okay.
how to handle that.
Well, I'll let you off the hook. You can do that, Dave. I'm absolutely okay with you doing that. So have your daughter talk to me if she wants to fight about this. I do like the idea of letting them talk to their neighbors before you call on them, though, because that softens it. That really takes away a lot of that stigma. If they get a chance to converse with somebody, then you ask them. They're not going to mind the random calling, I don't think. Okay. The ways to call on the students, I'll just go through this quickly. The common one is ask the question, pause, and then call out somebody randomly, or call on a student that, volunteer. So who wants to, there's a raised hand, we'll go for that. Jump ball is anybody, just ask anybody want to, or the choir is everybody. Okay, if this is something very common, okay, conservation energy, kinetic plus potential, everybody kinetic plus potential. So there's pros and cons for each one of these. I really like the let them talk. Whoops, want to go in pen mode. Talk, T-A-L-K, talk with neighbor first. I like the randomly pause, let them talk with a neighbor, and then randomly call on a student. That's the way I traditionally do most of my asking the questions in class. I don't usually get I sometimes do this if it's a very rote thing, but I don't usually go for a volunteer or go for anybody answering sort of thing. I want to go through that random list sort of thing. Okay, so the think, pair, share is pose the question, give them time, have them pair up, discuss the answers. I always try and, if you're discussing answers and you both agree, I'd say find somebody that you disagree with. Try and argue with somebody that disagrees with you. So that sort of broadens it. If you just go, is it 7? Yeah, B, okay, that's fine. Well, there's not that much. I mean, if they've got it, great. They could then go to somebody else and help them work it out. So why waste the talent if they're sitting there going, yeah, we got it. Let them help somebody else in there. James? No?
No, fine.
Okay, good, okay. That's fine. Okay. And then share their answer with the class. That's where you can do the random calling out to get them to pick one of the pairs. And you can even pick the pair. So if I call the name, it's okay, your pair is now on the hot seat. Either one of you could answer. And if somebody's really shy, the other person might step in and say, oh, here, let me answer that one. So I tend to just pick the person. And it's, again, if you can deal with that, I don't know the answer, and softly get them into something approaching the answer or getting somebody to help them out, it's not a harsh process. It's not a scary, it's not an intimidating process. And so my students don't usually care about the randomly calling on somebody. As long as they've been able to talk about it ahead of time, it's a much softer sort of thing. Okay, So we could do clickers, or we could do Wimba polls, or we'll get to classroom presenter polls, although I have to move it along to get up to there. Letter cards is a very simple, low-tech way. You just fold up the letters and show the letter, B, A, C, whatever. You can get a quick poll of the class to say, okay, I got a bunch of B's out there, and I know that's the answer, that's great, or I got A's and B's and C's, and I got a whole mixture of things out there. So I print these out and hand them out to the students and keep them. You know, fold up your cards and keep them and hold them. And then we do a lot of quick polling of the class. And that's relatively anonymous. It's a weird sort of situation. The clickers is purely anonymous. I mean, I could maybe collect banner IDs and get them in the clickers. Some of those systems work that way. After the fact, I could figure out what they said. But live, and see a histogram, I don't know what individually people have said. But if I have a letter underneath my chin and I'm handing you the letter B, you're going to now connect the letter B with my face, and so there's sort of a subliminal psychological thing of I really kind of want to answer this right because she is seeing or he is seeing my face and my answer, so I really want to, if I'm just clicker, B, whatever, it's a clicker, I don't care. But if it's me saying, it'd be like me calling on Dave and saying, what's the answer? He's go, oh, okay, wait, I want to look good in front of the class and I want the teacher to know that I know the material. I'm going to step up my game a little bit. So that's a very low-tech way to do it. Okay, so here would be a clicker question or a think, pair, share type question. So there's actually two questions on there. This is position versus time, and then which is constant non-zero velocity. So this would be after you've done some of the position versus time stuff, but they're not quite comfortable with it yet. And this is one where, yes, there is only one answer, but you're going to have people that might pick, so what is this? Constant non-zero velocity. You're going to get people that pick C and B, and they might even pick A. And they go, okay, so wait, constant non-zero. So then they'll have discussions. So, oh, wait, constant non-zero. Oh, constant, then it's only got to be this one. These have non-zero velocities. All of these do except for that one. So, but you're going to get some conversations going. This is not the best think, pair, share type questions are ones that really elicit a lot of discussion. If it's 49 divided by 7 is 7 or whatever it is, then that's the answer, boom. It's a one-shot thing. It's not a good think, pair, share question. If there's some discussion of, wait, so speed, okay, wait, but non-zero velocities, direction, do I have to care about direction? There's a little bit more discussion to it. It's going to be a better question. Okay. Chemistry, I wasn't sure if I was going to have chemistry people in here. So you can do a lot of less than, equal than. It's a pressure, and you open it up and change the pressure and so forth. So there's all different types of, if you've got a multiple choice sort of question that you think about some discussion that you've got to worry about, wait, how do is it this or is it, it's not so clear, it's not so clear cut. That'd be a good think, pair, share type discussion question. Okay, how do we get them? So we've got chemistry. Here's a link to a bunch of concept test sort of things. Sometimes the textbook's got clicker questions, and nowadays they're starting to push toward clickers, and they've got resources out there for clickers. So some of I know our physics, university physics, has clicker question chapters, PowerPoint files. And some of those questions are really good. Some are okay, but some are really good questions. And then there's ranking tasks, and I know there's chemistry's got them, or physics has them. I think chemistry has ranking task books, or make them up. I mean, if you've got some good multiple choice sort of questions. Okay, as we get into muddiest point, what we're going to do is, let me go back, let me just finish this one thing, then we're going to have to switch tapes on there. So the muddiest point is, what's a problem? Like, what are you having trouble with in this class? What point isn't clear? What would you like some more tutorial work on? Something like that. You ask a question like that on their answers, piece of paper, turn it in, or later we'll get to, they could actually submit a slide and submit it back to us, and we could have that sort of slide. Then what do? We collect them, we have to look at these things. So there's a little bit of time. We're now looking at areas that the class is telling us we're having trouble with. If I look out over the class, it goes, everything going, oh yeah, it's fine, it's fine. But if there's pockets where they really don't know something, they're willing to say it here, they may not be willing to say it in class in front of their peers. And then I can't just give the same lecture again. I'm going to have to do something else because it didn't work the first time. I got to come up with another way to do it. But at least I can now target areas that they're having trouble with. Okay, let's take a quick break here with PowerPoint. So I'm back in the regular slide set where we left off. So this is now, did you want to hide something? Would you want to hide something in PowerPoint so that the students can't see it on the overhead screen, but you can see it on yours? Or get them to do submissions back, so we'll play around. Well, actually, the submissions don't worry about PowerPoint, but hiding the things in PowerPoint. So there's a design cycle, and I'm going to show you a somewhat scary looking slide that has a lot of stuff on it, but that's, as we go through these techniques, you'll see that we'll go through the techniques, but that's a nice reference slide to come back to say, oh, here's my design cycle. We've got multiple different files. We're going to have the files that are the bare bones ones for the students, or at least that's the way I do mine. Bare bones for the students and the hidden ones for me. And you don't want to keep those separate from each other. And then you're going to have Classroom Presenter saves it in its own file format, so that's naturally going to be a third file that's out there. I recommend keeping those files, and I'll talk about the pedagogy of why you might want to keep those. And then if we're going to hide stuff, we need to do the extended mode sort of thing. So we'll have to play around with that. Okay, so let's look at the design cycle is we're going to create and edit in PowerPoint. We can tag things. We won't be able to put in animations or video links or anything, but we can tag things. There's visible stuff and then there's hidden stuff. I will be able to see everything on my screen, but I want to make sure that the visible stuff goes to the overhead and the hidden does not go to the overhead. Leave blank space for inking. This is I'm creating the bare bones ones and then the ones I'll ink on. And then you might be able to put in some blank slides, so you interleave some blank slides in there to make sure. You could always add them in Classroom Presenter, but it'd be nice for the students to already have the blank slides in there. If you know I'm going to do a lot of calculations on the next slide, leave it blank there. Test it to make sure that the hidden stuff really stays hidden and the visible stuff really is visible. And that's the open mine as an instructor networked and then open a client on the same machine as a student and then see that I'm only seeing what I want it to see. Save the bare bones. Okay. Now, what I do is I make my hidden version, then I strip out all the hidden tags and then save that as so save it as mine, then strip out all the hidden tags and then save the bare bones. I'm not going to edit two at the same time. I want to do one so I know I've got everything in there. Then when I'm done, it's easy because I'm going to make a suggestion to you. Pick a particular color, use that as your hidden color. So I just go through and find anything green and just strip out all the green stuff and then resave it under a new name as the bear. So then I can go instructor only. That way I'm seeing the stuff that I want to see there and they're not seeing it here. Or I can go to networked, either way. The hiding needs to have instructor only or network needs to have that extended display. Okay, so you load up your PowerPoint, you ink whatever, save it. You do a save as in there, and then I've got some warnings on how you save it from Classroom Presenter to make sure it saves properly, and then just repeat the cycle again. So that's the overall design cycle for it. Okay, so let's look at here's my blank slide interleavement example. So if you want to stick in a blank slide, if you know you're going to need one, you can always add them in Classroom Presenter, but remember, the students wouldn't have them if they did printouts or if they had their own, if they have the blank PowerPoint slides. So if you know you're going to want one, put one in there. Okay, so PowerPoint gets read right into Classroom Presenter. Don't have to do anything fancy with that. It is a one-way process though. Once you get into Classroom Presenter, it doesn't go back out. It could go out as images, and then you could load all those images up into Classroom Presenter, into PowerPoint, and PowerPoint's got a slideshow option, so you could actually reassemble a thing, but it would all be static images of the slide. It would no longer be any text documents, text boxes or anything like that. But we can export it or we can print it as PDF, so we've got options to get that out. We can always load it up into Classroom Presenter too. It'll always be read that way. But having the PowerPoint original means you can make changes, and then the next time you teach it, you reload in that PowerPoint. So hidden stuff, and then one for the students. Okay, so we've got a bare PowerPoint, a hidden PowerPoint, and then Classroom Presenter. You're going to have 3 sets of file for that one document there. Okay, so the bare bones, let's see, save with a hidden. Right, so what I do is for the ones I put out for the students, I'll save mine as Chapter 2, and then I'll make it like Chapter 2S for student, or Chapter 2 bear, or something like that. So I'll resave it once I've stripped out everything. Unfortunately, you've got to go slide by slide. But if you're on a slide, you can hold the Shift key down, click on a bunch of things, and then delete all of them right away. And again, I'll show you that we're going to tag them as a particular color, so you just go everything green. Click, 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 delete. And it's all done on that one slide, but I do have to go slide by slide. Okay, so do we want them to see the expert thinking, or do we want them to be active in class? Either sides of this I can support. One is the expert thinking argument, one is the I want them to do the work argument. So whichever way you want to do it, I would support either way. I tend to do the bare bones, let them ink whatever they want, I keep my own notes. So that's sort of a compromise in there, but it's really your choice completely. So tablets and laptop mode. If I'm going to design, I want to be typing, so I'm going to spin around and go into laptop mode. Means I got to switch my overhead. But now I go to LCD plus CRT, cloned. So anytime I'm doing editing on PowerPoint, I'm going to be in laptop mode. I'm not going to be in tablet mode, and I'm not going to try and use that fly-out keyboard and ink stuff, and write stuff in that way. I'm going to type and do whatever I need to type. Okay. So open up PowerPoint now. Here's the thing. These kinds of, I've got these showing right here because I added them to my quick access toolbar. I've got instructions on the Blackboard page on how you can also, just like loading that registry file to get the display manager things, you can actually load in all of my customizations for my quick access toolbar, including having these things show up for you automatically. So there's instructions out there on the Blackboard page on how to load that right up. You can get my Word, Excel. If you want OneNote, you'll even get my own ribbon in OneNote. So I put all the things together in one ribbon that I wanted. But this would automatically load in for you. If you don't see that, I mean, if you obviously you haven't done that yet. But if you look under add-ins, here are those things under the add-ins. So there's those 4 things. So if I look at a particular item here, I can now see that with my add-ins tab, that is an instructor view. That's an unrestricted object. So I'm in instructor view or I'm in projected view. So look at this. Watch down here. Instructor view, there's something that's hidden, but when I'm in projected view, the projected view, you wouldn't see that. So that's a way to toggle back and forth. When you're doing any kind of editing, stay in projected view. Instructor view, because you want to be able to see all your pieces. That's an unrestricted object. If I make that an instructor object, and I switch back to projected view, it disappears. So if I'm back to instructor view and then take that thing, tag it, go back to unrestricted, now on the projected view it would show up on the projected view. So I'm basically going to stay in instructor view to edit. I'm going to tag things either unrestricted, everybody sees it, or only I get to see it. So whatever I tag like that is then going to be hidden to the overhead screen. But it'd be nice for me to have some sort of code as to how to tag it. So I'm using my color code. I'm saying if it's green, I'm going to hide it. It's going to be a hidden object, and then I can have all my green things are all the hidden objects, so I can easily get rid of them or as I need to. Okay, so you've got the ribbon. So in the add-ins, so when you get PowerPoint open, there's a demo file out there for PowerPoint. So if you open the demo file and click on the add-ins tab, then we get all those active. You forget this, we don't have to worry about that. But we got all these 4 active in there. Download the talk, and yeah, I recommend adding these CP, the Classroom Presenter items, to the quick access bar. But even better, go look at the Blackboard page because you can get my customization of the quick access toolbar all in one fell swoop. Okay. So, so there's the so I talked about this. The unrestricted object, the instructor object is only on my instructor screen. Instructor view lets you see everything. Projected view is only what's going to be projected on the overhead screen. And then once we're done with this, this gives you sort of a test to say projected view, what disappears and what doesn't, but we're going to want to run in Classroom Presenter to make sure it's really as we thought it was going to look like. Okay, so tagging, we select an object that we want to hide, tag it as instructor view, and then it would only be seen if we're looking at projected view, we don't see that tagged object anymore. I recommend tagging it a particular color so that you know that color is always going to be the hidden objects. You could do an outline instead. You could do a dotted line outline if you want. You could, and then so under the click on the object, the text box or whatever, you can format it and then pick a dashed line or something to outline it. But I strongly recommend color is probably the easiest way. Just color it. I use the green or the light green as anytime it's green, it's going to be a hidden object. I see it on my screen. You don't see it up on the overhead screen there. So that unless you happen to use green a lot in your inking, mostly we use red and blue and black. So if green's not one of your standard ink colors, use that as your hidden color. Or it could be any color you want, but okay. You can group hidden objects. So if I tag a bunch of objects, I can keep all of them hidden. So I can tag, so here's a hidden object there. Here's a hidden object here. Oh, so wait, so let me look under projected view. See, all those things are gone. If I go to instructor view, now I can tag them individually, or I can group them. Oh wait, so this thing is grouped. These two together are grouped together. So I could group all of my hidden objects together. One nice thing about that is when I go to strip them out to make the bare bones version, I just click once, grab that whole group, and delete it. The only problem is Classroom Presenter sometimes doesn't like dealing with groups. Mostly it's if you try and group text with an image. It sometimes has trouble with that. So I tend to leave everything separate, but if you want to group them together to clean it up a little bit, grouping should work, but you always want to test it in Classroom Presenter to make sure. Okay, so why don't you do some practice? Why don't you put some text boxes on the screen and then tag it, maybe use a dark green or something, and then check with your projected or instructor view and see if you get it to hide and not hide. Now, if you're using the example one, you can use my example file and check those, but I would recommend putting in a new text box and trying it, essentially starting from fresh on a page to make sure you can do it. So PowerPoint? You can start with any new PowerPoint. It doesn't have to be an existing file. Okay, that's fine. So you could practice. Those are both visible, right? If you clicked where Demo Slides is, it's now. If you go to under...
That's what I was looking. Where is
you don't have it. Okay, what image is this? Is this the old image?
the old image?
Okay, so you don't have... Okay, that's going to be a problem. Do you have the Add-ins tab?
Do I have what?
Yeah, you have Add-on. Okay, so you're good. Add-ons tab? Yes? Do you have your add-ons tab? Yeah, so if you click on the add-ins, then you got those 4 things, right. So if you click on something that you want to hide or show, there, so that whole thing.
Okay.
So now that's, oops, wait, let me click on one.
Yes, he needs to.
So let's go on the title there, okay. There, so unrestricted object, if you make it an instructor object, under projected view, it's gone.
Okay.
Under
So
instructor
this is
view,
actually-
it's back again.
Ah, okay, so they have, this is actually something that's added in through having...
It's an add-on from Classroom Presenter, added on into PowerPoint, right. So that PowerPoint can tag it in a particular way, and then Classroom Presenter hides it or not hides it. Similar, right, yep. Exactly, right. Yeah, I'm sorry, Valentina, so try it on mine.
I can try that.
Okay, but try it on the main, if you want to try it on mine to see. So right up on here. So tag at the top. So here's the title. So the title's unrestricted. If you turn it into instructor object, okay, so now go to projected view, disappears. So go back to instructor view. There it is. Now you have to click it to make it highlighted. So now you can untag it or make it unrestricted. Yeah, right. And so what I do is I tend to make dark green. Those are my colors for something that's hidden. But it's a simple matter of tagging it as, so leave it in instructor view when you're editing, and then tag it as instructor object or unrestricted.
So basically with a new PowerPoint, I would get the add-ins and stuff like that.
Right. Well, okay, but now, if you look on the Blackboard page, the Blackboard page actually has a thought ahead, just in case. I might have someone just like you in the class. Whoops, can't find it. Okay. If there's what if you don't have Classroom Presenter, tag-ons. So under workshops,
all the time, but
and under this,
I just put it on OneNote and whenever I write this.
connecting projectors. What if I don't have the CP add-on, or the weird smiley face? Okay, so this is how you would install them. This would be Office 2007 or 2010, Win 7. So in theory, that should be the directions. You'll have to download some stuff, but in theory, that's how you can do it. So if you get stuck with that, let me know. Is that good? You sort of get the sense of?
Yeah, now where is this Classroom Presenter at?
Okay, so Classroom Presenter is, if you come down here, Start menu, go to All Programs. There is a slide farther back that talks about, here, let me go back to here first. So the slide where you'll find it, oops, that's the demo slides. Okay, the slides, if you go to the main slide set, it'll show you. The All Programs come all the way down. It's hidden down here in UWCSE. Then there's Classroom Presenter. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to right-click on it and say Pin to Taskbar.
Oh, cool.
And then I'm going to right-click on it. Oops, nope, now I clicked on it. So it's on the taskbar. What I can do is,
Okay.
I'm going to go
Well,
back to
there it
this.
is.
So it's there. It's actually opening now and running. But
Okay.
let me come down to here and say Classroom Presenter and Pin to Start menu too. So now it's here on your Start menu,
So it comes
Classroom
in.
Presenter
Okay.
there, or it's here. Now it's actually running right now. So it's saying, do you want standalone in this? Yes, okay, start a new presentation. So now you can go open that deck you're on right now. Actually, we have to save the deck first.
Okay.
So save. Users, wait, read only. Let's do a save as. And let's go, I'm going to put it in my documents?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we go open. And then my documents. It's there, okay. I just put it in the top there, so here it is.
Okay.
Okay, so all that's just going to do is read those slides. Now,
They're
you're
gonna
in
come up
instructor
right here.
mode. They're going to come up right there.
And
So
this is where you, okay.
this is instructor mode. So you'll definitely see everything. Everything that you might have hidden, you're going to see it because you're in instructor mode. If you projected this, anything you had hidden would not show up on the screen, the way I was hiding stuff in the
right.
beginning.
Stuff on the right.
Right. But now you've got all your inking tools exposed right away.
Yeah.
You can easily get into it. So it is the PowerPoint slide that you had. So you're not, I mean, if you have a bunch already, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're just loading them up into here and you're getting better inking tools. And now the ability to hide stuff.
So what I do, I use OneNote all the time.
Okay.
Okay.
Right?
And so I kind of use this as a projector.
Mhm.
So I can look at the students and I have the save.
Right.
Okay, so I could make a real basic PowerPoint of what I was going to cover.
Right.
And then just put blanks, and then I could still use it just like OneNote.
Okay, now here's, I'm gonna stop you for a second. If you're using OneNote,
Yeah.
and you're happy with that, and that's got all the inking tools available to you. Two things. One, I would say, look on the Blackboard site, because I've got the, somewhere up here, somewhere down here, I've got something about the toolbars for Office, where if you install the ribbon for OneNote, the one that I customize, everything I want is on that one ribbon. I've pulled all the pieces from OneNote. I can't do it with Word, I can't do it with Excel, there's too many things in there. But I do have my quick access toolbar in all the various things. But in OneNote, I've created my own ribbon that's got everything I ever use in it. So you might find that as a useful ribbon. You can always move it out of the way if you don't like it. But if you're using OneNote already, I would say you don't necessarily have to go to Classroom Presenter. Because first of all, you're going to have to take your OneNote stuff, put it back into PowerPoint, and then come into Classroom Presenter. You're already using a more advanced tool than PowerPoint. Because OneNote would be advanced in terms of the ink stuff is there, the ability to go seamlessly. See, we're still on slide. You're seamless all the way down.
Yeah.
You're more advanced than this. I would say don't step backwards.
Okay.
So there may be a time if you want to have the students, if you want to pose a question, send that out, have them get answers back to you, then you could use, because you can't do that with OneNote, not as easily. So, but to have them collect slides from students, that would be a way to use Classroom Presenter. But if you're using OneNote for your lecture stuff, you're doing fine. In fact, I'm going to bring you in and help you. You're going to help me teach a OneNote class when we do OneNote.
Okay.
So yeah, because if you're already doing that in class, that's impressive.
Well,
So
it works, it works nicely.
Sure.
The issue being, it's small, but it's, students.
oh, the inking, you mean? The ink
You have a small board to write on,
in OneNote?
Well, you mean compared to a whole Blackboard?
Well, okay, but you can shrink
Yeah.
the things on the sides.
Yeah.
I can work with you on that. You might be able to shrink some of the stuff to the side to get more of a writing space out
Yeah, I
of it.
pretty much do that.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
and
But you're right, it is not the entire screen.
Yeah.
Exactly,
But other
exactly.
than that, it's,
But what it's got going for it is impressive, so,
yeah, and when
yeah.
I want, I can put it out for the kids, for the students to get.
Correct,
And I
right.
don't put very much out, but
You can if you need to, right.
I have one international student that's trying to talk me into it, so
Okay,
when I present something new, I'd maybe put the basics out there only,
right, right. Okay. Okay, so caution about grouping. If you group things, you might want to ungroup it before you get back to Classroom Presenter, because Classroom Presenter is not always happy about grouping things. It's usually okay, but sometimes it's not. If you're going to paste things in, I would use Paste Special and try and get into the picture, the enhanced format. It'll make much smaller print or PowerPoint slides also. But I can give you some more information about how to sort of wash any kind of screen captures through to be able to get a smaller size out of it. But pretty much anything you can do in PowerPoint other than animations will come over in the Classroom Presenter. Okay. So you can import graphics, you can put equations, hide equations in there, do whatever you want. You could even fade some of the hidden things. So in some ways, this might not be a bad idea. I don't do it myself, but sometimes when I put stuff in there that's hidden, I now have to, I mean, it's sort of blocking other things. Depending on how big it is, it may be blocking some of my text. And so now I've got one thing on top of another thing here, and the students aren't seeing it, but I'm seeing it here. So it's kind of a little bit of a problem for me. So if I faded the opacity of it a little bit, made it a little bit more translucent, then I'd still be able to read what it is, but I could still see the lettering underneath too. So that's more of an advanced trick in there. Okay, so we can open up, this is just a repeat slide in there. We open up the Classroom Presenter. In Classroom Presenter, we just open up the PowerPoint slides. We don't have to do anything fancy. Here's the bare bones, the instructor notes kind of thing. Okay. So save the bare bones. So what you may want to do is you've now saved that out as your instructor file. You could strip out any hidden elements and then save it as a bare bones. We don't necessarily have to go through that practice, but definitely you want to have a file for you and then some other slightly different file name for the bare bones version that you're going to if you're going to post it. Again, you don't have to post anything, but I think if you're going to do a bare bones idea for the overhead screen and do a lot of inking, I'd recommend posting a bare bones for the students. Okay, for extended desktop, the best way to do it is this Fujitsu file manager or display manager. And I've got instructions out there on how you can load this file so you automatically get these other connectors. If you're just doing cloning the screen and you're going to stay in laptop mode, then Windows P. So if I hold the Windows button down and cycle through, I get duplicate or extend, or so it's really duplicate or disconnect the projector. Those are the two main ones you'd use. You can go with the extend like this. That would give you extended mode and give you laptop. And the problem is the screen, my screen here is going to change. The resolution changes a little bit. And I'd much rather use the Fujitsu Display Manager because this keeps me in exactly the kind of resolution I want here. And it gives me the best resolution up there. Also, the Windows P is only for laptop mode. If you try and do it in laptop mode and spin it around, you lose the connection. So you can't easily do Windows P in tablet mode unless you do that fly-out keyboard, which is kind of a pain to deal with. So I really am a huge fan of this display manager, especially when I've got these three extra things in there. I can just click on the one that I want. Right now I'm in laptop, I'm laptop and clone, so I'm doing this one. Before I was doing tablet and cloned when I had it spun around and we were seeing what I saw. And then I was doing tablet extended. That's where I've got it in tablet mode and you're only seeing what I want you to see up here. So these are the three. Rarely do I do this, laptop and extended, just because I spend most of my time in tablet. So I'm in one of these two modes almost all the time in class. Okay, so but that's how you set settings, I think. Okay. So we can do a little bit more of the advanced stuff. I want to keep an eye on the time because I'm already at an hour and a half. So do you have a few more minutes? I can show you some of the things. This may be I've probably hit most of what you'd want to do with Classroom Presenter at this point. Hide stuff and be able to just run and use the ink tools and everything. If you want to play around with having students emailing slides in and collecting things or polling, there's more stuff here. So let's at least get to the emailing slides portion. So if I go into standalone instructor, that's me here and the slides go up there and nobody gets to keep any of my ink slides, at least not automatically, not live. If I go with networked instructor, then anything I ink here automatically goes out to the students and they get to save their own version. They can actually ink on top of my ink notes live during the lecture, but they're getting to keep all my ink notes if you go with a networked instructor. So you may want to have your own notes not networked, but you might want to have some question slides that you want them to answer and get back to you. So open a second instance. Go in first as instructor only, open a second Classroom Presenter, so I'll do that now. I'm going to open a second Classroom Presenter and say, oops, I get it down here. Open another Classroom Presenter, and this time I'm going to say, I want to be networked instructor, and it says, hey, do you want to start a TCP server? Meaning, do you want to be your own little network? Yes, I do. I want to take that. I'm going to be instructor mode. Start a new presentation. Okay, so right now I'm in instructor mode. Instructor networked. If you have Classroom Presenter open, I'd close it or open another version and look to see, go in as student. So if you've already got it open, close it and then open it again. and then when it gives you the option of how to connect, go in as student. Yeah, close out. Yep. Go in as student, and then you should get a choice. Once you click the student button, it should pop up with Join My Classroom. There's a Join My Classroom screen. So go ahead and click the Join My Classroom. So just to show you what that looks like, I can even run a student on here. So when I come in Classroom Presenter, I'm going to say, come in networked as a student. Hey, join the classroom of S. Schneider whiteboard. So right here, click that and then say join the selected instructor's presentation. So here is the student version of what I'm broadcasting in the main version. So when I say there's the red, so when I get the red, you get the red pushed out to you. So this is letting you see everything, and you can ink on top yourself, and I don't see that ink. Are you on the new network or are you on the older network?
No idea.
Okay. So here. Oh, does it? Okay. If you're on, yeah, you're on the old wireless network, you'd have to get on this network to be able to do it. So have you already done the login thing before? Okay, so as long as you're on this network, close this out and open it back up again. You're on, Valentina? Okay. Yeah, I've got a note in there about the network. You've got to be on the, quote, new network, or at least we all have to be on the same. And since I'm on the new one, you've got to be on the new one. Okay, so now what we can do is, let's go to another slide. So I'm going to duplicate, no, I want to insert a slide. No, I want to insert a slide. New slide. Okay, so here's a new slide. So what question or what thing are you not so sure about? So you should have that second slide, is that correct?
Didn't come up on mine.
Let me think about this.
Oh, it's a 10 to connect.
Now
Yes.
Ah, there we go. Okay, okay. So you get the muddiest point so far. You can ink on that, you can answer that, and then you should see an icon up here. The student version has a little envelope with wings. So once you write an answer to that, you submit it to me, and I'm going to see the answers. I'll get the slides back from you that have the answers. Now, somebody's already submitted one. Somebody submitted a completely blue slide? No? Maybe that's a blank so far. Oh, there, now I've got a submission. Okay, now if you look on the side here, I've got some choices. You're not seeing that yet. If I were running this as extended desktop, you would only see this slide right here. You wouldn't see this stuff on the side. I can also right-click on this and say, no, not that. There's another option I want to do. I want these to be bigger, and now I got to remember where.
It took a while.
Under options. Displays, no. With the preview. Oh, with the preview.
What you gotta do is just like, go try to bring up like this.
No, that's not it. Somewhere there's a
Go to this, we gotta do this.
somewhere there's a way to control the sides of these.
Okay. So now go and hit, so. Okay. When it comes up there, hit the zone.
Oh, film strip width. Okay, so one slide. Wait.
Go in the zone. And then it'll come up and call
Student submissions. There we go. Student submissions film strip width. For some reason they've got it set for 3. If I set it for 1, then what I get is I can easily get a preview of what the questions are before I throw it to the screen. So I can look at it and go, okay, what blew up on Jupiter? Well, this is obviously somebody that's not paying attention. That's not a classroom presenter question. So I'm going to skip that. And I'm going to go on try number 2. I don't know what that means either. So this is actually a very good example of none yet. Okay, so good. None yet. So I've answered all your questions that are pertaining to classroom presenter. So I can choose to see which of the student submissions that I want to see. Now notice, you're not seeing this on your screens. So even though I pushed it to the overhead, you don't get it pushed back out to you. You only see the stuff that I've got as my whiteboard or whatever presentation I loaded up. And then you connect it to that particular presentation. Okay, so that's an ability to send in slides, get the students to work on something, and so the answer here would be Comet, Shoemaker, Levy. Oops, L-E-V-Y. No, that's the old one. Is there a new one? Did something else come in?
Well, last week, one.
Oh, was there something? Okay. What's the try number 2, though?
I tried something first, and for some reason it didn't work, so I think I wasn't.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay.
I erased that.
So, but you can see how well, you can erase on yours. No, now that I've sent it, it won't erase, I don't think. Right. If you could make another one, erase it, and then send it again.
That's what I did.
Correct. Oh, okay, so there's another one in there? Or no?
No, I made one, and I thought I sent it, and it didn't come up, so therefore.
Okay, I'm not. Oh, so maybe you can only submit it once? Try again. So try to hit that mail icon.
No, it probably did. I just didn't click.
Oh,
properly the
gotcha.
first time around.
Oh, I got you.
I was
Okay.
waiting for it to show up.
Okay.
It never showed up.
Okay.
So there's a way for the same student could erase what they have and put another.
That I wanted to check. So I assume that's the case, but Valentina will now prove it to us.
Try number
3. Okay, so now click that. Okay. So then, yeah, I just get another one coming in.
But he would not.
So yes, see that. So, but I don't know that this is Valentina other than I watched her type it. So there's no indication who's sending what. So it is anonymous in that sense. That's why it's nice to have the preview, because somebody might say something you don't want to be broadcast to the front of the screen. So, but the preview is nice to be right there. Okay, so yeah, guest at the moment, guest or off campus, we're not going to have a solution for that. James was on the other wireless network, even though we're both in the same room, but our network wouldn't see him. So crossing the networks, they've got that siloed. But as long as everybody's on the new network, and everybody will be as of tomorrow or something because the old one goes away, that shouldn't be a problem. But guests or off campus, we're not going to be able to do that at the moment. So standalone, if you just want to run, so we've already seen this slide before. Here's the network, so you go instructor, then you start and take a role, and then go on from there. If you are having trouble, if they're having trouble and they need the IP address, if you go under your help screen and go to IP address, it'll show what the IP address is for your machine. They can manually type in that IP address. I'm not sure that would have worked for James if he was in the other wireless. I think it's siloed now that you can't do that. But before, if we were in between nodes, somebody was on a different node, they would still be able to reach across and get the IP address and type it in manually. And the students log in, and you did that. You went in as a student, and you joined this particular class, and then go ahead and started that particular presentation. Okay, so this is the tools. We talked about this, submitting the work. We just did that. Get the slide sets. Yeah, the polling is the next thing, right. So the polling would be, you have to prepare the questions ahead of time. But if you set up the poll, so right now, I got to go back into Classroom Presenter to do this. So I'm in Classroom Presenter here, Instructor. This is the standalone. Oh, I can't do it as standalone. I've got to do it as the other one. So this is the instructor that you're seeing. So if I load a deck, and I have to say, rollout poll sample. Okay, so this first slide is there. I'm on the instructor. I got 4 clients. Whiteboard. Oh, there. Okay, so there's there. Okay, so here, oops, no, wait, I got to set the poll. So under tool, oh, you're seeing this, right. Under Tools, I set the poll type for ABC. Okay, now when I go to, oh yeah, we can just talk this through because you're seeing it as from the student perspective. So from the student perspective, you should now have a box up top. You should have letters that show up. And the student has, oh, you know what? So when I'm here, now I say, Now I say, I want to start the poll. How do I start the poll again? Here, start quick poll. So if I click that, Gesundheit, now your student things should have an ABC showing up. So you're seeing the quiz, the poll question, and you're seeing ABC. So the question is, which one? The tension is greater than A, tension A is less than B, tension A is greater than B, less than B, or the two tensions are equal. It's not clear on the slide, but there's lines right here, here, and here.
Yeah, not this one.
So that's tension A and that's tension B. Okay, so which is it?
So how do we answer it?
So you should see that the little buttons A, B, and C.
Oh, over
Now,
there.
now,
Okay.
okay.
So if you get those, then you can make your choice, A, B, or C. Now, I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to go back to that. You're still seeing the poll question though, right? Or are you now seeing this?
I'm seeing the,
We're seeing
Okay,
it.
so if I go to this, now if I'm in extended mode, you'll see this, you'll see your question, but I'm seeing this over here. You're not going to see what's going to show up. If you start answering this, we're going to get a histogram that shows up in here. So go ahead and answer A, B, or C. Did you answer?
yeah.
Okay. I got 5 clients.
You just click it.
Yep. Click A, B, or C. I click B.
Does mine highlight after I click it or something?
No, it should. Oh, here's the quick poll. Here's the quick poll. Okay, so there is the poll. When I look under here, here's my results for the quick poll. So now I can see I've got 33% and 67% there. So 2/3 of you said the middle answer, 1/3 of you said the first answer. I can either show that to the students or not, because normally you're only seeing this. So I get to see my quick poll answers over here and then optionally show it to the screen or not. If I click on that, then everybody gets to see that.
Once we start answering, you got that new tab there.
Right, once you started answering, I got the tab, correct.
Okay.
So here's the poll here. When you started answering, this thing popped up, and there's my quick poll results, but it's not showing to the screen yet. Now we get the choice of going on with this. Yeah, so now the other thing is I set up these templates so that this area is blocked off. You don't put anything there because that's where this is going to show up. It's not perfect. I need to match it a little bit more. But the results are going to show up in this box. So do whatever you want here, here, here. And I've also got it set for, there's arrows with the right color. So that color is orange. There's a blue arrow here. And then whatever that color is, there's a color for the arrow there. So you take away whichever arrows you don't need. So right now I can look at this and say, okay, now I got half the class that got it right, because I know that's the answer to the question. So half the class is right, half the class is wrong. Now I decide what to do with that. If I've got almost everybody right and only a few wrong, I'm going on. I'm saying, okay, everybody got that pretty much. I could show them the results or I could not show them the results, but don't show it to them live, because once you start getting somebody getting up to one of the answers, everybody else goes, oh, well, that must be the answer. I'm going to go to that one.
Are the answers changing?
The answers change. So what I've done is in the template, it's a PowerPoint template, and I put all 3 color arrows down pointing in the right spot to point to that bar. If there's 4, there's 4 colors. If 5, there's 5 colors. So they're all there. You just take away the ones you don't want to see. They're all hidden. So you just delete the ones you don't want. For your question, if C is the right answer, delete everything but the C one, and then there's your question slide. And then pull in the new 5 question slide. It's got everything on there. Then delete everything but B, because B is the right answer. So I've got the template set up so you can easily put in the questions you want. So basically I got this set up. This is set up for 2 questions, 3 questions, 4, 2 answers, 3 answers, 4 answers, whatever. And that way you just eliminate the ones you don't want. And that way in this preview, so I don't even have to think about what the answer to this is, as long as I answered it right. I know which answer it is because I said, okay, A is the right answer, so leave that arrow, take the other ones away. Now in this preview, I automatically have my visual aid to say, yes, great, now I got more than half the room. Notice you can change your answers. So somebody just dropped this down and re-answered, and somebody else went, after seeing that everyone in the room went to these 2, somebody went to C. But the answers can change. So you could even have them poll first. Wait, let's talk about it, blah, blah, blah. Now let's poll again and see if everybody lines up. Now that's one live poll, so I don't get the snapshot of the old version. Although technically I can take a snapshot on the screen. I can use my snipping tool, which is subject of another workshop at some point, and snip out my original view, and then, okay, now everybody re-poll, okay, now I can snip out the second view. So if I wanted a quick snapshot of, wait, what they do first and what they do after. Okay, so I've got a template file out there, and that's out on the Blackboard site. And if you look for the union label, poll question demo, template for poll questions. So right here, this thing right here, that's got the 2, 3, 4, whatever, and it's got all the arrows as hidden arrows. So you take away the ones you don't want, and it shows up in the, so it's all beautifully set up for you. Just have to edit it. So, okay. Okay, I think we're probably winding up because, let's see, that's my instructor mode. We get back to this. Okay. Hiding things, so we got that. Oops, let's keep going. CP there, screen polls. Right, okay, and I showed you what that looked like. Okay, so exiting. So here's the thing where, do you want to save your decks? Yes, if you just try and exit, it's going to ask you, do you want to save your decks? I would say save your decks before you exit. Save the slide sets before you exit. The whiteboard can be saved as a separate deck. So you just click on whichever deck you want on the side, on the tabs, click into that, and then save as, and click into that. When you click on the tab, make sure you click on a slide too. Because if you notice, when I click on the whiteboard, I can see it here, but I'm not seeing it here. And so Classroom Presenter doesn't think I'm on that yet. It thinks I'm on this one because that's the slide that's being shown. So once I click into that, okay, now I'm on the whiteboard, now I can save it. Okay. When you do the saving, do save as. And Classroom Presenter's got this weird bug. Here is a relative, here's an absolute address. This is all the way down. C, users, Schneider, documents, blah, 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 all the way down to the file name. This is actually bad. When normally you'd think that's fine, that's the best. What you have to do is edit back all that directory stuff and get it just to be the file name that you want. You can change to whatever folder you want to be in, but even when I call it up in a particular folder and go to save it in that same folder, if it gives me the absolute addressing, don't take that, because what's going to happen is you're going to lose all your ink. So you have to edit back that link and say start with my file name and drop back all that directory stuff and get to just the file name alone. Now it'll save it, and it'll right away prompt you, do you want to overwrite your file? Yes, I do. But that's the only way to save the ink. There's a weird bug that leaving the absolute addressing won't save the ink, but the relative addressing will save the ink. So that's a minor little thing. Just get used to always doing save as, and then always saying, yes, I want to overwrite my previous file.
Could you write it to a different named file?
You could, but I tend to, if I'm inking through and I want to just keep going, I'm halfway through chapter 2 and I want to keep going, I'm just going to keep it chapter 2. Oh, so then I don't remember where I said it, but what I tend to do is put an underscore ink. Do I say it on the next slide? I don't say it there. Well, you know what I do is I tag it by semester. So I'll say chapter 2 underscore fall F12, fall 12. Because that chapter I'm never going to do again in fall 12 other than during that course that I'm teaching it. So that way I get to, now why do you keep those slides? So this is just the saving. Okay, so why would you go ahead and keep those slides? I always go back. The next time I teach the class, I'll make sure I go back and say, okay, I think I have the bare bones slides that I want to give out to my students. Let me go check to see what my notes look like from last time. Oh, right. Remember that? I had that whole number screwed up over here and my hidden answers were wrong. I got to fix that before I send it back out. Or remember that great question that they asked and I wanted to add that, I put in a blank slide and added it? Let me edit that. So this is great pedagogy of going back and reviewing how I taught that class before. I don't get that if I've got a whiteboard that I'm erasing. So if I've got digital slides here and I've inked up all those slides, take a couple of minutes and look through that chapter and say, did something stand out like, oh man, that was a great conversation. Got that quick. I'm going to ask that as a question. I want to add that slide as a question slide. That's great teaching pedagogy of let's go back and review and find the stuff that worked or the stuff that didn't work. I've got a note on those slides going, wow, this was a lousy example. Well, don't put that in the next time. So that's a good review process for us. Did I have enough white space in there? Did I need another blank slide, or did I have too many blank slides? Too many is not a problem. Too few is going to be more of a problem. And then was there some sidetrack calculation that, wait, I should pull that forward? That was an excellent one. And this example I did, that's a lousy example. Let me switch that out for something. So this is a nice review. We've got all that inked notes. Don't get rid of them, but maybe tag them by semester so you know where they were, how far back you needed them. So, okay. So tag stuff, say the PowerPoint open. Okay, so that's just the review of that design process. The quirks, the save as, we've got to be careful of that. Oh, every once in a while, if I'm done with a class and I'm in my extended mode and I close the projector and go back to my office and open it back up again, suddenly I've got the whole thing maximized. I don't have any of my icons showing. I can't get to my file menu. I can't do a save as. And I panicked when that happened. A couple of times I just shut it down because I could not. I used the task manager to close Classroom Presenter, but it meant I lost all my ink because I couldn't save it. If you do the Alt F, even if it's all maximized and all those menus are gone, Alt F will pop up the file menu. Then you can do your save as, close as, or whatever. So I stumbled upon that because Alt F should pull up a file menu in Windows, and luckily that's a Windows program, so it does. But I lost a bunch of ink before I figured that trick out. So I've warned you about that trick. It very rarely happens. And I almost always save my ink before I leave the classroom just to make sure I've got it done. And then I can close the screen and do whatever. So, okay. I got practice time set in for the poll questions and things like that. But there's a handout on printing or exporting Classroom Presenter. You can print a PDF, but you got to set some weird things in the settings just to make sure it'll print properly. And you can actually give out the slides. You can save it, export it to a website or a web page, and what that'll do is make a screen capture of each individual slide and make them an image. So you could just collect all the images and send them out to the students. You could even re-import them into PowerPoint and create a static slide version of the PowerPoint with ink. So that's an option. Okay. Very powerful for just simple inking and just simple get my tools in front of me and don't hide them and don't make me right click and do a bunch of stuff. You can do group stuff. You can let the students have your ink or not let them have your ink. It's up to you. You can run 2 instances so you can check. You can always check out what's going on, or run my instructor only for my class notes and then run a networked one for polls and questions I want to ask the class or something. So I can have 2 instances running. That's really handy to have. And you've got that out on the CTL Blackboard site. So that was a blur through the Classroom Presenter workshop with a little ACL worked out. If you don't mind, I've got a survey out there. If you look at the very top, I even put it at the very top so we wouldn't forget it. There's a quick feedback survey. It's just some very simple questions. Some of it is what things really worked well or what things didn't work as well or what topics were not as interesting to you. And what other topics would you like to see? So if you take a moment and fill out, I don't know what you say, but I will know that you said something. So I'll know that Dave didn't fill out the survey and I can bug him about it. But I won't know whether it was Tim said something or if you both fill it out, then I don't know who said what. But I do know that both Tim and Dave filled it out. So I thank you. I ask you to take cookies when you leave. But if you've got any questions and especially now that I've launched you in this, what I think is a very powerful tool, I'm easily available for personal consultation if you need to work on some stuff and you're having trouble with it. I'm also going to say Julie is a great resource too because she really knows her stuff. So I'll share the wealth. And she's not here so I can volunteer her. Any questions? We're set.